On July 15, 2020, a post on Elon Musk's Twitter account sparked a huge uproar. The post claimed that if you send me $1,000 in Bitcoin, I will send you back $2,000. This offer was supposedly valid for a few minutes, and the post looked like a scam, but it was posted on Elon Musk's official account and had been verified by Elon Musk himself. Along with that, similar posts were made on other popular Twitter accounts like Apple, Jeff Bezos, Bugis, Barack Obama, Joe Biden, and a host of other major accounts with millions of followers. After discovering that this was the largest cyber attack in history so far, Twitter halted the functionality for all verified accounts until they could figure out what was happening. But what shocked everyone even more was that the perpetrator behind this attack turned out to be a teenage high school student. When investigators looked into the background of the perpetrator, they found that this teenager was a skilled scammer and had been involved in cybercrimes since a young age. And the amount of money he had made from scams and Bitcoin was in the millions. And so, our main character today, this teenage scammer goes by the name Chauncey Cheeselock. Born on January 9, 2003, in Tampa Bay, Florida. Chauncey attended public high school, where he quickly gained popularity among his peers, both in person and online. Chauncey always dressed in designer clothes, wore expensive watches and accessories, and his net worth was in the thousands of dollars. So, a teenager like Chauncey, coming from a modest family, taking money from his parents, and if he was born into a wealthy family, why would he resort to such methods, attending a public school? It was precisely this flashy appearance that attracted many of Chauncey's friends, who tried to approach him and become friends with him. So, Chauncey took advantage of this and persuaded them to do homework, cheat on exams, and similar tasks. Initially, he would treat his friends to dinner and buy them things they needed. It was a mutually beneficial relationship, and nobody questioned where Chauncey got his money from. Chauncey also didn't like to talk much about this issue, and whenever someone tried to inquire about it, he would immediately change the subject. But those close to him also knew that his family background was quite ordinary, if not outright poor. This started when Chauncey's parents, who were divorced, struggled to make ends meet, and Chauncey's custody had been transferred elsewhere. Living with his mother, who worked hard to support her son, Chauncey found ways to pass the time by playing online games and indulging in whatever he wanted on the internet. Chauncey often spent a lot of time playing various online games. As you may know, online games are a very popular pastime, where each group of people can create their own world, then play and enjoy everything they can do in the game, like building houses, collecting resources, and much more. However, they may encounter malicious individuals trying to take advantage of them. In the world of online gaming, Chauncey Cheeselock had established himself as a master of deception. Going by the name Open, Chauncey had a presence on Twitter and a YouTube channel with the same name. He also had a loyal following, especially since he often portrayed himself as a benevolent figure in his videos. Open would lure others to follow him and then deceive them into buying items within the game, only to disappear once they had transferred the money, leaving them with nothing in return. He also sold fake game items to players, charging exorbitant prices and then vanishing with the money. Through these scams, Open made a significant amount of money during his early years. Open often disregarded the fact that he was breaking the law, claiming that he was just a 2-year-old kid who had managed to earn $5,000 in the past month alone from online gaming. He boasted about his activities, and as his notoriety grew, the suspicions of his followers began to spread. Some YouTubers started uploading videos exposing Open as a scammer, revealing how he had deceived his followers. However, Open retaliated by attacking the accounts of these YouTubers, hacking their emails, devices, and all their accounts. Whether Open personally carried out these attacks or hired someone else to do it remains unclear, but given his expertise at the time, he was more than capable of such actions. After seizing control of all the accounts belonging to a particular YouTuber, Open used them to continue his scams, impersonating the channel owner to deceive his followers further. Ultimately, the reputation of the targeted YouTuber was completely destroyed. Open didn't just scam his followers or players of the online game, he also deceived designers, video editors, and programmers. He would hire them for their services but then refuse to pay them after receiving the completed work. This was just the beginning of Open's life as a scammer. His experience in the world of online gaming and his access to the real world allowed him to expand his fraudulent activities further. Open's journey into the world of hacking began on a forum known as OG User. This forum served as a marketplace where individuals bought and sold usernames for various online platforms. Although advertised as a legitimate site, everyone selling usernames there was involved in hacking. Open joined this forum and started selling usernames himself. Later, he transitioned from being a scammer to a hacker. One of the most common methods he used to gain access to accounts was through a technique called SIM swapping. As most users know, many online accounts are linked to a phone number as a security measure. Users can only access their accounts after entering a code sent to their phones via text message, a process known as two-factor authentication. Hackers would approach telecommunications companies, pretending to be the legitimate owners of a phone number, and convince the customer service representatives to transfer control of the phone number to them. This effectively gave hackers control of the phone number and made them the de facto owners. In this way, hackers like Open would take over the phone numbers and become the new custodians of them, gaining access to the associated online accounts. Many might think that the process is as simple as making a phone call to the telecommunications company and obtaining someone else's phone number. However, it's far more complicated than that and leaves behind a trail of devastation. The main tool in this process is SIM swapping, where the perpetrator steals a phone number and gains control over all the accounts associated with it, including social media, email, banking, and even cryptocurrency wallets. So, how does a scammer like Graham Cheeselock acquire someone's phone number? There are various methods to accomplish this, but typically, a scammer might impersonate an employee of another telecommunications company and trick the real employees into providing the target's information. For instance, they could call a different branch of the telecommunications company, pretending to be an employee from another branch. The scammer would introduce themselves to the employee and fabricate a story, claiming they received a report from that employee regarding a technical issue and provide them with a report number to make everything sound legitimate. Of course, all of this is fabricated, and the employee will either not report any issue or not recognize the report number. Subsequently, the scammer would provide the employee with a link to a fake company portal, similar to the real one, and ask the employee to log in using their company credentials to check the report. Once the employee enters their username and password, they'll receive a fake page confirming that the issue has been resolved. The scammer on the other end would thank them and assure them that everything is now in order. The employee of the telecommunications company would be none the wiser. The scammer now has the employee's trust, and they can proceed to change the phone number associated with the target's account to their SIM card from the company's system. As a result, the target's SIM card will be deactivated, and they won't be able to access their accounts. Additionally, all the passwords associated with the account will be changed, leaving the target helpless. This is just one of the methods used by scammers like Graham Cheeselock. If this method fails, they may try another employee or another branch of the telecommunications company. This approach is more akin to social engineering than digital intrusion. Scammers are trying to deceive people rather than exploit software vulnerabilities. Initially, Graham used these tricks to acquire Twitter accounts with unique usernames and to trade them on OG User. However, he soon realized that if he could obtain others' phone numbers, he could also access their emails. If successful, this meant he could gain access to their banking accounts as well. This led to cases of wire fraud from one account to another without leaving a trace. However, there's another type of currency that can't be traced by government agencies: cryptocurrency. Scammers like Graham target individuals holding large amounts of Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. From then on, Graham started focusing on individuals holding this type of currency. In reality, he wasn't the only one doing this. There are countless such attacks happening every day. When dealing with cryptocurrency, once a scammer obtains someone's phone number, they can access their digital wallets and transfer all the funds out without the victim being able to do anything about it. Since cryptocurrency transactions are untraceable, the money is lost forever. Garaham started his plan at the age of 55. He began selling usernames on OG User. Within this community, Garaham became acquainted with various cybercriminals, adept at their craft, and started learning from them. These individuals formed a small community where most relied on their illicit activities by selling items they acquired online. These items included stolen credit card information, bank account details, clothing, and even armor, all priced at thousands of dollars. Garaham often targeted the account managers of affluent individuals and inserted himself among their followers. These were individuals he believed had the potential to possess significant wealth, such as cryptocurrency investors. Most of these individuals used their real personal information, making them susceptible to hacking. Once Garaham identified a potential target, he would execute a technique called doxing on them. This involved gathering fake information about someone online, such as their address, workplace, phone number, email, and other personal details. He would collect all this information from sites that sell personal information. This process didn't require much expertise. Even regular individuals could exploit it, and often used it for pranks. However, this wasn't Garaham's end goal. He would use this information to engage in a form of social engineering called spear phishing, which involves sending targeted emails containing fake information to trick recipients into revealing sensitive information or performing certain actions. For example, Garaham would call a telecommunications company, pretending to be someone else, and claim that he was the owner of a particular cryptocurrency account and needed to verify it. One such victim of Garaham was an investor who had invested in various assets, including Bitcoin. On the 15th of May 2019, while working in his office, his phone suddenly lost network connectivity. He was surprised as his office was located in a modern urban area with good signal reception. How could his phone lose connection out of nowhere? He tried to log into his email but couldn't access it. He attempted to enter his password multiple times, but each attempt failed. Shortly after, his phone lost power. He was horrified and attempted to check his Bitcoin accounts but couldn't log in. He tried his accounts on 3 different platforms, but none of them allowed him to access his funds. That's when he realized he had been hacked, and the worst part was that he couldn't do anything about it. He then remembered he had an app that could retrieve data directly from his Bitcoin accounts and consolidate them in one place. Through this app, he could view the transactions performed on his accounts. He opened the app and saw transactions from his account to another account. A hacker was transferring his Bitcoins to their account. He had lost all his email history, access to his contacts, and possibly a significant portion of his assets. It was a feeling he had never experienced before, and the perpetrator behind the Bitcoin theft was none other than Garaham Cheeselock. He had been targeted by a Bitcoin scam worth only a fraction of his total account balance. However, this was not the total amount of money in his accounts. Garaham had reached a daily maximum limit. So, he visited the telecommunications company and swiftly regained control of his phone number. He then used it to freeze all his compromised Bitcoin accounts immediately. Of course, he couldn't recover the lost funds. However, Garaham was a bit greedy. He wanted to retrieve the remaining balance in his Bitcoin accounts. Garaham managed to recover one of his emails and contacted him through the same email. He sent him a threatening message. Garaham stated that if he wants to regain access to all his accounts and avoid being exposed, he must transfer 50 Bitcoins to him. At that time, 50 Bitcoins were worth about $250,000. Garaham even threatened his family and friends. This caused him a lot of headaches. Interestingly, his email was being used by other cybercriminals to communicate with each other. Garaham orchestrated this alongside other cybercriminals, and as usual, he betrayed his accomplices and did not share the money he had earned. They couldn't stop Garaham, so they were forced to contact him. Through the emails, it was revealed that he had to give them 2 shares, which is 66%, if he didn't want to go to jail. They threatened to expose Garaham's personal information and report him to the police. Garaham had run through these scenarios many times. However, this time, he made them very angry. These 2 individuals had personal information about Garaham's family, and continued to threaten him. One of them sent people to Garaham's house. To intimidate him, they planned to vandalize Garaham's house. They wanted to scare him and possibly take further violent actions against him. Due to these incidents, Garaham not only entered the world of fraud and crime but also experienced 3 attempted murders. He traded drugs and some synthetic compounds, which he also used. Garaham also became involved with thugs in the underworld. And in late 2019, Garaham was involved in a botched operation, and one of his friends died. In fact, Garaham and his 2 friends arrived at an agent's house, who was a supplier of the drug, and brought down. The reason for this wasn't clear, but it seems that there was a sudden conflict between them or something. Garaham stayed in the car, and his 2 friends entered the house of this dealer, who also had a weapon. As soon as they saw Garaham's 2 friends in their house, one of them fired at them. One person died instantly, and the other was seriously injured. As for Garaham, he left the area immediately after the incident. Later, the police arrived and began investigating the incident. They secretly interviewed the injured person, who told the police about Garaham. Then, Garaham was arrested for questioning, and he tried to pretend that he was really good at their company, but he stayed in the car and didn't know what their purpose was. Garaham only knew that his 2 friends asked to be taken to that house, and when they changed the mood, they acted and ran away. Garaham completely denied his involvement in the incident. Investigators found discrepancies between Garaham's statements and the evidence they had, but ultimately the evidence was insufficient to convict him. After the incident, Garaham's school announced that students involved in this incident would not be allowed to continue attending the school. This tarnished Garaham's academic record. He then moved out of his mother's house and sought refuge elsewhere. However, law enforcement continued to monitor Garaham and were concerned that he was still active. What made the situation worse was that Garaham was very proud of the money he had earned online. Cybercriminals and scammers competed with each other to see who could make more money. They competed in scams, fraud, hacking, and even in more violent actions. Therefore, law enforcement agencies were tracking down people like Garaham. For example, Saul was recently sentenced to nearly $7.5 million in gold for using a method similar to what Garaham used. Saul was sentenced to 10 years in prison at the age of 21. Hadi Baba can confirm that he obtained this information firsthand, and the hacker sent him a post posted on a forum, which included the article. Any Twitter account priced from $2,000 to $3,000 would receive the password for that account. This post was posted on the forum with some people named around. Hadi posted dozens of screenshots of the article to make it easier for everyone to see that this was an original cybercrime case. Shortly after posting, Hadi received a disturbing message. "Can you delete this post on your end? I don't want people to easily know I'm involved." Hadi asked who he was, and he waited for a response. "I'm Chiquan, the one who posted about selling accounts." Chiquan reassured Hadi that he had nothing to do with cyber activities and was just a bystander, and Chiquan didn't want to be involved in this incident. Hadi gave him the phone number of a journalist, and told him straightforwardly, "You have to tell the journalist everything if you want to keep your reputation intact. Otherwise, you will be arrested sooner or later." Chiquan had no choice but to contact the journalist. He then told the journalist everything, even revealing his true identity. He said plainly, "I'm just a naive 19-year-old named Masson, living in the UK." He was very straightforward when talking to the journalist. Masson told the journalist, "I have nothing to do with cyber activities, I just sell Twitter accounts." The journalist asked Masson if there were accounts stolen from the beginning, and Masson replied that someone named Kitch had contacted him on Discord. Kitch told him, "I am a Twitter employee, and I have provided Masson with those accounts." The journalist was very surprised and asked him directly, "Are you sure he's a Twitter employee?" Masson replied, "Unfortunately, I didn't ask him much about it, but I just trusted him." The journalist asked how someone could have access to all those accounts if he wasn't a Twitter employee, because who else could have access to all those accounts at once? Masson said bluntly, "Kitch contacted me and asked if I could help him sell some of these accounts." Masson didn't believe it. This person can access any Twitter account. To prove it, Kitch asked Masson, "Can you request any username for any account you want, and I will provide it to you?" Masson gave him a very difficult-to-find name, but a few days later, Kitch provided Masson with an account and password. Masson immediately logged in and realized that this person has the ability to do what he claims. So Masson agreed to help Kitch sell the accounts, and that's what we're doing on OG User. At that time, Masson didn't realize he was involved in something big because all the major Twitter accounts were sharing the same script. The question Masson asked was all too obvious. How could they find out Rick's real identity so quickly? This incident has almost turned into a frenzy, and a younger boy, 2 years younger than him, tried to sue. That boy was better than him in terms of suing cyber attacks, but his age and temperament were not taken into account because he was still a minor. But he would be tried as an adult. But I will be a witness for him as a legal advisor. So, Garham and Taylor collaborated to carry out a Twitter attack. And in 2020, we still can't forget the COVID-19 pandemic. As a preventive measure, many large companies implemented remote work systems. Twitter, like other major companies, required employees to work from home and access company systems from personal devices. Garham and Taylor examined employee accounts and then pretended to be Twitter technical staff. They contacted the employees, claiming they had a problem to solve with their accounts. Both perpetrators appeared very confident and convincing, finally requesting the employee to access a fake scanning page, which appeared similar to the company's genuine scanning page. When the employee accessed the scanning page, Garham and Taylor would collect their username and password. After obtaining the login information, they immediately logged into the employee's account and checked their permissions. Not all Twitter employees have the same level of access rights. Thus, if they could access a manager's account and change the email or password, it would grant them even greater privileges, allowing them to access other accounts. They continued to log into multiple accounts until they found one with the authority to change passwords and emails. Once they found such an account, they took control of it. The insane part is that this attack was not carried out by a sophisticated nation-state or a seasoned professional hacker but by 2 teenagers. Although this attack required significant skill, the impact and material gains from the attack had far-reaching consequences. Both Garham and Taylor were interested in gaining access to the most influential accounts to sell or engage in further fraudulent activities. While they may have had larger potential profits by exploiting the accounts of major companies, thereby potentially disrupting the global economic platform. For example, they could tweet that Apple executives had resigned, causing the company's stock to immediately plummet. And the 2 kids would make millions if they sold short on the stock right after the tweet. Furthermore, they could access and eavesdrop on private conversations of high-profile individuals to either reveal their secrets or blackmail them. When the online community later discovered the truth, chaos ensued, with many scrambling to verify the authenticity of news stories. But you see, these internet thieves, Garham and Taylor, were still just teenagers. Therefore, this scheme wouldn't last long. 2 weeks after the attack, precisely on July 31, 2020, the FBI arrested Garham and Taylor. The details of the case weren't disclosed until that day, and we still don't know how the FBI managed to apprehend them. The case details went through juvenile court to protect the identities of these criminals. However, Garham and Taylor's digital footprints, like some traced phone numbers, IP addresses, emails, or possibly tips from informants, led to their capture. The day after Garham's arrest, a plea deal was arranged among a team of Taylor's attorneys, prosecutors, and another group of defense attorneys specializing in similar cases. This was the first plea deal in which they ironed out the details of the case. It was held online due to the pandemic's social distancing measures. Some of Taylor's friends, who had been complicit in his activities, organized a circus around the proceedings, inviting members of the press and television crews to cover it, such as journalists. Then they started heckling the prosecutors and playing loud music. This shows us that Taylor's friends were just surrounding him as if it were a game, and Taylor underwent an incredibly challenging trial. The prosecution wanted to charge Taylor as an adult because he was only a few months away from turning 18. The case brought serious charges against Garham, with 30 counts of serious crimes, and Taylor faced up to 200 years in prison. Initially, Taylor vehemently denied any involvement, but after facing the lengthy trial, he had to deal with prolonged legal proceedings. He accepted a plea deal that was offered during the trial. The central principle of this deal was that Taylor would plead guilty and be sentenced under the juvenile system. Instead of being sentenced as an adult in Florida's adult system, which carries a much harsher penalty, Taylor was given a plea deal under a program called the Youthful Offender Act. Under this program, the maximum sentence a judge can impose is 6 years in prison. Taylor was then sentenced to 6 years in prison, but part of the agreement was that he had to plead guilty. Most importantly, Taylor would be housed in a youth facility, designated for youthful offenders. Taylor avoided a much more severe punishment. If he had been sentenced as an adult, the penalty could have been much heavier. After all this, Taylor walked away from prison with a lighter sentence, and his little criminal enterprise, which he had previously valued at around $300,000, turned out to be worth up to $8 million. That's the end of today's story, reflecting on the life of a talented but misguided teenager. Leave your thoughts in the comments section below. And for now, goodbye and see you next time.